Well, American media has reported that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was only going to hit military targets rather than oil or nuclear sites when he retaliates against Iran for those 200 ballistic missiles nearly 2 weeks ago. But then a statement from Netanyahu's office today said, "We listen to the opinions of the United States, but we will make our final decisions based on our national interests." And I've got to tell you, that's the strength I saw when I met with Netanyahu last week, that he's not going to succumb to pressure from the international community if it's not in the best interests of Israel's survival. Well, let's cross live now to Israel, where IDF International Spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner joins me. Peter, thank you for your time. Does this mean that strikes on Iran's nuclear sites are still a live option on the table?
Sharri, the IDF has put on the table for the government a vast spectrum of different options that the IDF can employ and deploy to. And I think that this is not necessarily something we need to talk about openly, but of course there is many different options. Contrary to non-state actors like Hezbollah or Hamas, Iran, the Islamic Republic, is a nation state, and they have assets and interests that can all be hurt.
Look, if the nuclear sites aren't targeted now by Israel, there has been speculation about whether the US would support this when it's in the middle of an election campaign. Iran's nuclear capabilities, though, at some point they do need to be dismantled before nuclear weapons are developed, because that would pose a threat to the entire world, I mean, including us here in Australia.
Absolutely. Iran is the disruptor and destabilizer of the region and well beyond the region. And I think it is in everybody's interest that they do not have a nuclear capability. And that is why, of course, there is a huge concern. And I think we've seen several governments over the last few weeks institute new sanctions on Islamic Republic leadership of their military apparatus and beyond. And I think that this is a huge concern for the world. And what we've seen on our borders, and when you saw and you got up close, the reality here is one where Iran and their backed proxies have been empowered with strategic weapons on our border, and none of this would be able to take place if it were not for the Islamic Republic of Iran. So I think, yeah, there is a huge concern. It is they are the destabilizer and they are the disruptor, and they have to be held accountable for the actions of launching 181 ballistic missiles on Israel. One is unacceptable, 181 is despicable.
No, indeed. And so we've heard that Joe Biden has now said he's going to help defend Israel by sending an advanced air defense system known as THAAD or THAAD to Israel to help prevent or intercept similar ballistic missiles from Iran. The Pentagon saying it's going to send 100 troops on the ground to help operate this system. How will this system help Israel? It's already got the Iron Dome. So can you explain how this is different?
Israel's aerial defenses are, I would say, the best in the world. But every air defense system is not airtight. Our aerial defense, like the Iron Dome, but also like David Sling and the Arrow systems, they work on different levels of the atmosphere, above atmosphere and beneath the atmosphere and lower levels. And each component of this aerial defense system has a role in defending our airspace. The THAAD mechanism, which is a US-based operations system, is something that throughout the course of many years, the IDF and the US armed forces have exercised together precisely for a scenario that Iran could jeopardize Israel's sky. So I think, and I won't speak on behalf of the Americans, they understand that there is a joint interest like we spoke beforehand, and therefore they are definitely leaning in to defend Israel and defend Israel's sky. The defense mechanisms is just one component, though, of course, of our system. There is the active defense systems like the Iron Dome, but it's also the individual responsibility that we put on each and every citizen. You heard the sirens when you were here. Each individual needs to take responsibility. So there's passive defense systems, also individual responsibility. And then, of course, that complemented with the offensive activities. We're not going to take anything sitting down or lying down.
No,
from our responsibility, the military is responsible for engaging, for dealing a strong, deterring, but also decisive message to those that seek us out. And I would definitely suggest to the Islamic Republic of Iran to look at very closely how we have destroyed and dismantled Hamas, its leadership, its capability to carry out an October 7th attack ever again. And what we've done to Hezbollah, its most formidable proxy on our border in the north, Hezbollah, who have been, decapitated. We've taken out a vast majority or a huge element of their strategic capability. The levels of their operations are diminished, and the operational capability of actually conducting attacks against us is also extremely limited. It's not completely gone, but considering the fact that for 20 years, they've been building this capability, Iran, on our border, that Hezbollah has been training and building their forces.
Apologies for interrupting. We've just got less than a minute, and I just want to get this final question in before we go. Can you tell me just how close Iran is to developing a functioning nuclear weapon?
I don't want to go into this type of discussion. It is a concern. Israel has been concerned about it for many years. The world needs to rally around this idea that this destabilizer of the Middle East and beyond cannot hold. Imagine conducting a war against our enemies today if Iran was a nuclear power.